Hello everyone. I'm sure you all are watching my videos and studying nicely at home and staying productive. So this is part 5 of chapter 2 Principles of Management of class 12th Business Studies. In the last video, we understood the different scientific principles of Taylor. Along with the scientific principles, Taylor developed some scientific techniques by conducting various experiments at his workplace. So we are going to understand the various techniques laid down by Taylor in this video. Before I go forward, please like my video and subscribe to my channel. So the first technique is functional foremanship. In this technique, Taylor has suggested that there should be division in the factory under two departments, planning department and production department. This is done because workers should be free from the burden of different kind of planning and they should only concentrate on work and production. In the productivity area, Taylor suggested that under each department there should be different functional experts to supervise these workers, and this is because that one foreman or one supervisor cannot handle each and every aspect of production, and so he insisted on minimum 8 bosses or 8 functional experts over the workers to take care of different kinds of work. So here we can see that this is clear extension of principle of division of labor, but also we can see that the violation of principle of unity of command through this technique. Now let us understand the literal meaning of this technique. Functional foremanship is a technique in which planning and execution are separated. There are 8 types of specialized personnel professionals, 4 each under planning and execution, who keep watch on all the workers to extract optimum performance. It is extension of principle of division of work or specialization, but it violates the principle of unity of command. So why Taylor believed and made this kind of arrangement? Because he believes that production is the most important area to work upon in an organization, and increasing production will definitely take an organization to prosperity and growth. So let us now see what are the different kinds of bosses under these two departments which he created under this technique. Planning department has 4 different clerks, and production department also has 4 different clerks. So workmen will work under these 8 bosses. So the first boss, root clerk. As the name suggests, root clerk is responsible for deciding or fixing up the sequence of steps which are to be performed for a mechanical or a manual job. Next is instruction card clerk. This person is responsible for giving instructions to the workers, like the route decided by the route clerk is put into certain instruction by this clerk. Time and cost clerk. Time and cost clerk will prepare the time and cost sheet for the job. That means he will fix the time required to produce a standard unit in an organization, in a factory, so that the cost can be decided. This is a very important thing to be done because this determines the price of the product later on produced. Next is shop disciplinarian. He ensures and he enforces the rules and regulations among the worker. That means he ensures and makes the rules which are to be followed by the workers once they are working in the factory. Next is gang boss. Gang boss is like from here we start working with the production department. The other four were responsible for different kind of planning, and then the production department will enforce the planned policies into the working area through these bosses. So first is gang boss. He is responsible for keeping tools and machines ready for the operation. That means once the worker enters the factory, so gang boss is responsible for making everything available for these workers so that they can start their work immediately after entering without wasting any time. Speed Boss is responsible for timely and accurate completion of the work. So this boss works in sync with the time and cost clerk. That means he makes sure that the standard number of units which are to be produced, which is decided by time and cost clerk, is achieved on field. Next is repair box. Repair boss. Repair boss is responsible for making sure that every machine, every tool, or every kind of equipment which a worker is using in the factory is working properly. So this ensures that there is no wastage of time, so that more production can be taken care of. Next is inspector. He is there to maintain discipline and also to check the quality of the work. So he works in sync with the shop disciplinarian. He makes sure that the disciplinary rules which are prepared by shop disciplinarian are enforced into the factory. And also he is responsible for checking the quality of the work. Second technique of Taylor is standardization and simplification of work. Let us first understand the meanings. Standardization is a process of setting standards for every step of business operation, and simplification refers to eliminating superfluous, unwanted varieties, sizes, and dimensions. Under scientific management, Taylor always emphasizes on maintaining different standards relating to different steps of business operations. It doesn't only mean maintaining standards for the quality of the goods we produce, but to maintain this kind of standard, we have to do the similar practice at the very micro level of the organization, that is production level. That means we have to maintain standards for selection of tools, equipments, and the machines we use so that we can maximize the output by keeping this in mind and setting different kind of quality standards. So there are companies like Nokia, Apple, Nike, Videocon. They are all using the same technique of standardization to compete in today's world. Now, what is simplification? Simplification emphasizes on elimination of unnecessary diversity of products. That means when a company is maintaining a variety of different products, and that too in different sizes, so it is maintaining the inventory, it is maintaining lot of machinery, lot of labor, and thus increasing the overall cost of the product. So if there is certain variety which is not working well in the market, so it is better to eliminate that variety and use the same resources for those varieties which are working well in a market. So this will definitely help the firm, the organization to optimizingly utilize its resources. So what are the benefits of using standardization and simplification in an organization? It brings uniformity to the organization. It brings different standards. It allows interchangeability of resources where they are required the most. It helps in setting different quality standards, and that too at very micro level. And it also sets standards for different activities in a business. It reduces the given line of products to fix type, size, and different characteristics required. That means it eliminates the unwanted varieties so that the resources can be best utilized in the most required varieties. So this is principle of this is technique of standardization and simplification. Next technique is work study, which is a combination of four different elements. Let us understand these elements one by one. The very first is method study. As the name suggests, it helps us to find the best method for doing a particular job. It includes selection of a method which minimizes the cost and maximizes the quality and satisfaction of consumers. So, to explain this, I have an example. A production unit of shoes is looking to expand. So it has two options. It can go for labor intensive technique or machine or capital intensive technique. So which method is better? So they have to find out using the method study technique. They can evaluate the cost of production using the both methods and then compare. They can find out like which method is a cost saving method for them, then they can go for this method for the production of their shoes. So this is method study. The next under this category is fatigue study. The word fatigue means tiredness. So, a person who is working somewhere is bound to feel tired physically and mentally if he keeps on working without a rest for a very long time. So, in such a case, he will not be able to work in his full capacity. And if he is allowed certain rest intervals, he can regain his stamina and come back to work with a better stamina and capacity, and this can increase the efficiency and the productivity of employee and the organization. So this is where fatigue study is required. This is a technique of scientific management which is conducted to find out the frequency of rest intervals for an employee, the duration of rest intervals, and the number of rest intervals. So this depends upon many factors like what kind of work a person is doing. If the person is doing physical work like laborers on a construction site, so they might need frequent intervals for rest. And if a person is sitting in an office and working over the laptop for 8 hours, so he might not need that number of intervals for rest like a laborer needs on a construction site. So this depends upon work to work. So this is where the importance of fatigue study comes in. It is required to set rest intervals and to set number, frequency and duration of rest intervals. Next is motion study. So motion study has an objective to identify wasteful or unnecessary motions or movements and eliminate them to determine the best way of doing a particular job. To explain this, I can give you an example. For example, in a factory, a worker has to go 10 steps far to the toolbox to pick up a tool, then come back again to the place of work and use those tools. If we can place the toolbox near his table so that he doesn't have to walk that 10 steps, we can eliminate this useless motion and we can increase his productivity. So this is motion study where we can design certain equipments, certain tools or furniture to minimize unproductive movements of workers. This will give them less tiredness and more efficiency in long run. Last under this category is time study, which means to find out standard time to perform a job, set the standard target for the workers, and to determine the number of workers to be employed. Let me give you an example to understand this in a better way. For example, on the basis of several observations, it is decided that a worker can produce 100 pens in 20 minutes time. That means in an hour he can produce 300 pens. Assuming that this worker will work for 8 hours in a day and deducting 1 hour for rest and lunch. So in 7 hours he can prepare 2100 pens. So through this time study we can reach to the conclusion that this is the standard task which a worker can perform, and the wages can be decided accordingly. This is a very important study because after this study only an organization can decide the price of the goods it will have for the products, because this will decide the cost of the production. So overall these four studies are performed and they are combinedly called work study. Next topic is differential piece weight system. This is one of the most important topics of this chapter. Let us understand the literal meaning first. Taylor wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient workers on the basis of their actual performance and standard performance. So this is one method which will definitely set apart the efficient and inefficient workers, and it will also reward the efficient workers and motivates the less efficient workers to improve. So there must be some formula, some technique. In this wage system there are two piece wage rates, one for those workers who produce the standard output or more, and the other for those who will produce less than the standard output. So definitely there is some standards set under this system which are for two different kinds of workers, one for average and above average and other for below average workers. So the difference in wages is enough motivator for working better. So this difference in wage will definitely motivate the workers to become efficient rather than less efficient. So this is a very strong motivator for the workers. Why? Because monetary aspect is involved. It differentiates between efficient and inefficient workers, and it violates the principle of equity. So this principle basically pays different wages to the same kind of workers. So it is violating this principle of equity. How this is done? Let us explain this through an example. So here is the example. In a certain organization, the standard unit to be produced by a worker is 10. He can also produce more than 10 units. The rate he will get after producing 10 or more units is rupees 50 per unit. If he is not able to produce these 10 units, the rate he will get per unit is rupees 40. So here three workers are here, A, B and C. So standard unit is 10 for all three of them. Now let's see how many units they produced in a certain day. 9, 10 and 11. So let us see if A has produced 9 units and the rate he has got for producing these units is rupees 40. On a certain day he got the wages of rupees 360. B, who produced standard number of units, got a wages of per unit is rupees 50 and he got rupees 500 as wages for that day. C, who produced more than standard unit, that is 11, got the same wage rate, got rupees 550 for that day. So let us see the difference. A produced 1 unit less than the standard, and C produced 1 unit more than the standard unit. So see the difference in the wage rate. If this person has produced 1 unit less, the difference in the wages from the standard wages is rupees 140. So it doesn't matter for an employee that to produce more units, but it is very important for an employee or a worker to not produce less than uh, the standard units. Otherwise, he can suffer this huge difference in the wages, which is 140 rupees. So this system, this differential piece weight system, is enough motivator for any worker to at least achieve the standard number of units. So the next and the last technique by Taylor is mental revolution. We have already mentioned this technique in the previous scientific principle, harmony not discord. So what does this technique means? It involves a complete change in mental outlook and attitude of workers and management towards one another, from competition to cooperation. Management should create a pleasant working conditions, and workers should work with devotion and loyalty. Instead of fighting over distribution of profits, they must focus on attention on increasing it. So, as we have already discussed this topic previously, there is always a chance of conflicts between management and workers. They tend to behave in a certain way which is not pleasant for the other in many of the cases. So, Taylor recommends mental revolution, which means you don't have to change yourself absolutely to adapt to the other party. You only have to have a change in the attitude. So this will help an organization to move from the sense of competition to the sense of cooperation and coordination. So this will help each of them to work pleasantly in an organization, and they will understand that the personal benefit will only be achieved if the organization will achieve certain benefits. So what are the benefits or what are the features of this technique? There should be a change in attitude towards each other. Cooperation among the workers and management should be there, and there should be no feeling of suspicion or prejudice in the minds of workers and management. So a complete change in attitude is required to achieve overall efficiency and productivity in an organization. So here we reach the end of this chapter, one of the most beautiful chapters of your business studies syllabus. I have tried my level best to make you all understand the concepts of this chapter. If you have any doubts, any questions, you can always write it in the comment box. If you have any suggestions or your feedback, would love to read that. Um, At the end, I would like to say please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And you held till the end. Thank you so much for that.